6 months of 2026 are over, and I have read 6 books to completion this year. And the reason why I say I have read 6 books to completion is because I picked up a lot of other books and I did not finish them, or I picked them up and I just thought that maybe this book is not meant for me right now. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the 6 books that I read, and I'm going to talk about books that I did not finish and why I did not finish them. Also, my story graph is linked in the description, so if you want to see real-time reading updates from me, if you want to follow me there. So let's get into today's video already. First, I'm going to talk about the 6 books that I finished reading, cover to cover. Okay, so the first book that I read this year, and obviously these are not going to be in any particular order, but I do remember the first book I read this year. And it's not because it was a memorably good book, it was because it was a memorably bad book. And the first book I read this year is called Young Jane Young by Gabrielle Zevin. And I read this at a time when I was not aware of Zevin's political leanings. I finished this book in 4 days. And you might think, oh my god, do you have your attention span back? Maybe. But the reason why I finished reading this book in 4 days is because it was bad. The story is about this woman who sleeps with a high-profile politician, and the drama that ensues after that. So she sleeps with this guy, and there's like a domino effect that happens to her life. Her life is virtually ruined. She also has to change her identity and live life as a different person after she is doxxed. And a lot of people in her life, especially the women in her life, also have to kind of bear the brunt of her actions. And I think that the premise, and if handled sensitively, would have made for a really good book, but the writing style of this book was just so poor that even though the stakes were high, they just felt like they're not really high. This book reminded me of one of those low budget, low production value Netflix specials that you get, for example, My Life with the Walter Boys, or like Ginny and Georgia level TV show. I don't think Ginny and Georgia is that cheap, but I don't know, like My Life with the Walter Boys for sure. And this is where I admit on the internet that I have watched My Life with the Walter Boys. Do with that what you will, but this book really felt like one of those low budget Netflix productions, and which is why I kept going and I kept reading, because that's what you do, right, with these Netflix TV shows. Like, you keep reading, or like you keep watching, not reading, you keep watching through them. You just want to get to the end of the story. Just like low level entertainment. The next book that I read this year is read cover to cover, finished, is A Pocket Full of Rye by the one and only Agatha Christie. A Pocket Full of Rye is a Ms. Marple mystery, and my first Ms. Marple mystery. I am embarrassed to admit that I had never read a Ms. Marple mystery before I read A Pocket Full of Rye. I would say that this book is really entertaining. The story is, it just keeps you guessing till the very end, and the characters are also super entertaining, and it's just an Agatha Christie mystery. I don't know what else I would say. The story is of this big shot business guy, finance guy, or some big shot guy like that, who is murdered, and then slowly but surely, like, other people also start getting murdered around him, people who are related to him. This is not a spoiler or anything, it's like on the blurb. So then obviously, a lot of eyebrows are raised, and a lot of people start questioning who did it, obviously. And then Ms. Marple has a connection to one of the people. She comes onto the scene and she solves the mystery. What I would have liked about this book more, or like what I would have just enjoyed more, would have been more of Ms. Marple, because she comes in at the very end, like with her analysis and obviously, like the detective reveals the analysis at the end. This ain't my first rodeo. But the thing is, like, she came in very late, and we do not get an insight into Marple's investigation tactics like we do with Poirot in any of other mysteries. I don't know, like, at least in this one, I did not get a good insight into the way Marple was thinking until the very end when she revealed everything. And I just wanted more of her, like, I wanted to see more of her quirks, more of her input in the mystery. But then again, it's like the story is still very solid, and like the story is very fitting. A very interesting thing to note about this book is that this is probably the first time taxine as a poison has been mentioned in a story, the poison coming from yew-berries. And if you've watched the recent movie called Sheep Detectives, you would know that even in that movie there's a huge reference to this book itself. Like, the person is killed by the poison of the yew-berry, which is called the taxine. And I really enjoy Sheep Detectives. I cried a lot, don't ask me. But at the moment they said taxine, I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, that's not a coincidence. So that, I think, was like a little Easter egg, or like a little nod to Agatha Christie and her classic mysteries. So this is the mystery that they are referring to in that movie. But I would say that this is a very solid book. And if you just want to read something on a vacation, and you just have the time on your hands, then I would definitely recommend A Pocket Full of Rye. And this kind of nudges me to read more of Miss Marple rather than Poirot. Next book that I read to completion this year has to be, is 1984 by George Orwell. One thing that I've noticed about these authors who are as famous as Orwell, or recently John Steinbeck has seen like a lot of people talking about him, and a lot of people talking about their writing, their works. And I think that what happens is that these authors fall prey to something I like to call reading around the book instead of reading through the book. So a lot of people read around their literature. Even like for me, before reading 1984, I always assumed that, I know what this book is about. I don't need to read 1984 to know that it's about dystopia and surveillance and whatnot. But then I actually picked it up. This was a very, very intentional read for me. Like, this book has been sitting on my shelf for the past 7 months, I think. I got it for my birthday. And ever since then, I have been wanting to read this. But every time I picked it up, I was like, I kind of know what this book is about. So I had read around it, but I had never actually read through the 300 odd pages that this book has. Which is why when I picked it up and I started reading it, I was super intentional. I was like, I am going to read 1984. That's what I'm going to do. Because no wonder this is a classic. No wonder people get so influenced and so enthralled by the genius of Orwell after reading this book. I get it. I get the hype. This book is really good. And if you want to know why this book is good, why this classic is a classic and it stands the test of time, you should go get yourself a copy and read it. Because there's nothing that can solve knowing or talking about this book other than just reading it, right? I don't have to tell you what 1984 is about. It's the story of a guy who is living in 1984 in a very heavily surveilled dystopian kind of a society, and it's just about how he decides to rebel against the system and what that lands him into. And I felt like this book is not just about the surveillance dystopia. It's that parallel is too easy to draw. We can see it all around us, we're living it. But what it is about more than anything is about memory, it's about cognition, it's about the nature of human memory. And I think that everybody is going to have a different takeaway from a book like 1984. So yeah, I read 1984. I also read this year, this is probably my favorite book that I have read this year so far. I must have been living under a rock the size of Everest, wink wink, to not have known about Jon Krakauer. Next book I read obviously was Classic Krakauer by Jon Krakauer. This guy is the author of a lot of books and which have been adopted into movies, like Into the Wild, this guy has written it. Into Thin Air, this guy has written it. He was on that 1996 Everest expedition, the most controversial Everest expedition. This guy is a mountaineer, a journalist, a naturalist, I guess, as well. And he just has lived such a life, and he has done such great work when it comes to journalism, when it comes to reporting about like things that go on in nature and adventure and wilderness, and this guy has done it all. Basically, this is essays on wilderness and risk. So there's like a bunch of 10 essays over here, 8 to 10 essays. In each essay is just so different from the other, but they all have a common theme that runs through them, which is why they are in a book together. The common theme is that usually as humans, we always talk about nature and wilderness as a backdrop to our stories. So whenever we are mentioning or when we are telling a story, we always have the natural world as a backdrop or as a setting. But what we fail to understand when we take risks in the wilderness is that we are a part of nature, not the other way around. Nature is not a part of our stories. We exist as a part of nature, and we exist as a part of wilderness. And Krakauer does such a great job of foregrounding nature, foregrounding the risk that being in nature entails, the risk that we all take when we call ourselves adventurers, we call ourselves people who are going to take on something in nature, and then what that leads us to, we are all aware of the risk, but we still take it because we're self-important. But Krakauer brings all of that, not just that psychology, but he brings that whole, like, a bunch of events that happened in the nature that cost people their lives just because they were not too full of themselves, just because they underestimated nature. And I think that that's such a beautiful message to send, and through real world long form journalism. And the reason why I bring up the fact that this is long form journalism is because of Krakauer's writing style. Well, obviously he's a journalist, so he will give you the down low immediately, but then he will introduce the characters one by one. If you want to take away anything from this video, just take away the fact that you should read this book. The next book that I read, cover to cover, Cultish by Amanda Montell. She's a linguist, and she has written about the language of fanaticism, the kind of linguistic and articulatory tactics that cult leaders use to manipulate people. And how do they end up manipulating people? Why does it all happen? And this is actually this year I read equal parts fiction, non-fiction, so I am excited about that. But this is the only proper science-y non-fiction that I read this year. And as a linguist myself, I found this to be very interesting, and I could actually see some of the concepts that I learned being used in analyzing the discourse that cult leaders put forward. And I think the biggest part of this book that made it so interesting for me is of how accessible it was. It was not very heavy with linguistic terminology. So anyone who is interested in the kind of language and the kind of tactics that cult leaders use to, and not like obvious cults like Jonestown or like Osho or something, but even cult adjacent organizations that we ourselves look at every single day or are a part of when we don't know, is something that has been explored in this book. And if you are into reading into books about linguistics and language, and if you want to read more, I would recommend reading this book because it's really interesting, and it's just like an entry point into so many different avenues of research. And the sixth book that I read this year is The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. Man, I don't know if you can see. Yeah. So this was a ride. This was a depressing ass read, but that's putting it very, very very, very shortly. It is depressing, yes, but it's also accurate. Didion talks about life after her husband's death and life when her husband passed away and her daughter was in like a comatose kind of a situation in the hospital, and she had no control over her life. Like, she had no control over the people who she held dearest. I would say that this book made me think so much. It made me write a lot in the margins. You can't see it from there, but let me just show you quickly. Oh yeah, there we go. For example, and how the nature of grief is in itself very confusing. There is no one emotion that you can point to and be like, oh yeah, now I'm feeling grief. It's a mixture, it's a hodgepodge of a lot of things. And Didion kind of encapsulates all of that confusion in the way she writes, because this book is really haphazard. It's like we are bouncing from memory to memory, then we're bouncing into real time, then we're going back in the past. And that's exactly what grief feels like. And I think that calling this just a book about grief is, diminishing it, because it is also, it's not a book about loss, it's more a book about life and how all of these things are a part of it, and how one person, Joan Didion, dealt with it and wrote about it for everyone else to kind of have this as a as a friend who, with very clear stream of thought, telling you that this is how it felt, so that you have a guideline on processing. That's what it felt like. So those were the 6 books that I read in 6 months. And I did not finish a bunch of books that I picked up. Strangers by Belle Burden. This book is doing the rounds, man. This book is doing the rounds on the internet. Everybody seems to be divided on what they think and feel about this book. I would just say that I started reading it. I was about 50 pages in, and I have this policy. I give every book 50 pages because it usually takes that long to establish either the characters, if it's a character heavy book, or the setting or something like that. I give it 50 pages, and if I enjoy, I enjoy. If I don't, then I'm like, okay, maybe I'll give it a 50 more pages. But usually I just give a book 50 pages, and that's that. I did read actually 80 odd pages, I think, of Strangers, and then I just gave up because I did not feel like going back to that book. I did not feel the urge to wake up to a new day and be like, I'm going to finish reading this and A book should be engaging enough to make you want to wake up the next day and look forward to reading the next part. Next book that I DNF'd is, I have a list over here, by the way, that's what I'm referring to. Heart the Lover by Lily King. I barely read 30 pages of this book. I just did not enjoy this book as much as I thought I would. Everybody on the internet is raving about this book. Everybody is talking about how you should read Heart the Lover by Lily King because it's going to make you sob. It is going to make you feel. It is going to make you question your life choice. People are affected by this book. I was not. I just felt like, okay, it's a book. Moved on. I didn't find the story too engaging, and maybe I did not give it enough time to, pick up the pace. But I did not feel like waking up and wanting to read more. I guess that has become my new threshold. Like, I wake up and do I still want to go back to that book? I don't. So that's what happened with Heart the Lover. I did not finish Yoke by Mary H.K. Choi. Mary H.K. Choi is the author of a book that I immensely loved back in 2021 called Emergency Contact. Emergency Contact came out way before 2021. I think this book, Yoke, came out in 2021. Yoke is the story of two sisters living in New York. One of them has cancer and the other one finds out about it. There's a proper typical sister dynamic going on over there, and I don't know, man, like eventually it just felt like the writing was, or like the characters being written were trying to be someone they're not. But that's not a good measure for a book. But I think I just didn't feel like reading through the rest of the book because I could not relate to it. It was very I Heart New York kind of vibes coming from the book, and I have never set foot in New York, so I don't know what it's like living there, and it just did not feel relatable. Next book that I DNF'd, there's so many, is King Kong Theory by Virginie Despentes. She's a French author. King Kong Theory is actually really good. I read like 70% of the book. It's a punk feminist novel, by the way. It's about life and times of Virginie Despentes, how she navigated life in a very uncertain time and chose to be a punk feminist and embraced punk feminism. One of the foremost people who talk about the punk feminist movement is Virginie Despentes. All said and done, her writing is just, it feels like drinking a shot of espresso and smoking a cigarette at the same time. That's what her writing feels like, and it's very punk. It's very like I liked it. I kind of really liked it, but the reason why I did not read the rest of the book is because I was working on my dissertation and I had no time. It's about punk feminism as a theory, as a lifestyle. You kind of have to read it continuously to be in it, and I was not reading it continuously. I was reading it in spurts, and because of that, because of my sporadic reading, I did not read the rest of King Kong Theory. But if you are looking for something on punk feminism, and if you want to get to know what punk feminism is, I would suggest reading her work. I would suggest reading this very book because it's so good. And it kind of really alters your brain chemistry and kind of teaches you in a way to live that not a lot of other books will. As a woman, I'm rare. Again, whenever I picked these books up, I had something to do with college. There were some readings that were a lot more important than reading fiction or reading other books. Which is why I could not DNF some of these books. That's like a very logistical reason on my part, nothing to do with the book. So yeah, man. And that's it for this video. If you made it to the end, man, you're a trooper. If you did not, you wouldn't know what I'm saying about you. Anyway, I'm going to make more videos on YouTube soon. I've been uploading a bunch of shorts. I don't know if you're into that. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.